Nice to meet you here. Ok. Bună dimineața! Welcome here at Metaverse. Bine ați venit în Metaverse. Acest eveniment care încearcă să explice unele mișcări globale care prefigurează viitorul și să ne pregătească pentru a activa într-o posibilă lume virtuală ce poate fi accesată prin tehnologii de ultimă generație, în realitate virtuală și augmentată, chiar dacă în ultimele luni se vorbește mult despre acest subiect și privim cu scepticism sau chiar uneori cu enervare subiectul excesiv mediatizat, am greșit dacă am subestimat puterea de transformare pe care acest mediu virtual ar putea să o aibă asupra lumii. Suntem la început și nu ne este încă clar către ce ne îndreptăm. Însă, observând piața, am văzut cum companii mari își pregătesc divizii pentru lumea virtuală, iar asta trebuie să semne ceva. Ne-am adresat unor oameni de afaceri, avocați, specialiști în blockchain, economiști, analiști, pentru a încerca să deslușim acțiunile companiilor, să înțelegem și să ne pregătim pentru viitor, să descoperim valoarea pe care metaversul ne poate aduce atât în mod individual cât și în societate. Despre metavers și despre modul în care acesta va crea posibilități de cunoaștere, educare și conexiuni umane, despre implicații economice, sociale și legale, vor vorbi astăzi invitații noștri. Oare noi ne vom găsi locul în el? Este viitorul lumea metavers, este și viitorul nostru? Adrian Locusteanu este gazda dumneavoastră de astăzi, îi va întâmpina pe invitat și va coordona discuțiile din această zi. Sper să aveți o zi minunată și să vă organizați într-o mică lume pentru ce va urma. O zi bună! Bine ați venit! Adrian, ai microfonul.
Mulțumesc, Ileana. Now I'll switch to English since not all the members of the panel are Romanian speakers. We'll have our show in English. So, thank you, Ileana. Yesterday, when preparing the conference, I actually realized that it was the first day after a very, very long time, the first day in which here in Romania, and at least from a legal and administrative standpoint, we are not in a pandemic mode anymore. I don't know how each of you imagined this day. And I don't know if yesterday was exactly how you imagined. We probably have fresh in mind the shockwave from March 2020, 2 years ago, when our daily life started to be less and less the same. It was a great challenge for all of us, and especially a great challenge for our way of understanding and doing things. Now looking back, a challenge and of course, maybe an opportunity. Ileana, you need to count how many online events Oxygen organized and how many people and ideas you brought together since then.
Right now, here are only 33, and on Facebook in the morning, I saw 10,000 persons who saw the events. It was
this is only for today, but just think how many events and how many people you had in your events from 2020 until now, online. Câți oameni ai avut din 2020 până acum?
I understand. Around 10,000.
Okay, so we are back to normal. Or, I don't know if we may say back to the future, if we remember the title of an old movie from the 80s. The real world has probably changed, and it is still changing in ways which we may not realize yet. And maybe equally important, the real world is more and more complemented by technology. And about the not so real, augmented and extended world developing around us, we will discuss today. Not only about this, it will be also about virtual assets and new ways of exchange, about trust and about doing business in virtual worlds, about the shift from real to virtual, and about the mix between real and virtual. Good morning, Bucharest. Good morning, Geneva. Good morning, Jersey. Buenas noches, Panama. We have someone from Panama with us. What time is there?
Right now, 2:35 in the morning.
And you say buenas noches, I imagine.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of good night. Good night, yeah.
Introducing our guests, I can say that today we are 2 times lucky. We have the chance to benefit the presence of passionate and knowledgeable subject matter experts, and the subject matter experts are coming from different domains, bringing on the table complementary perspectives. We have with us Sebastian Cochinescu, a tech entrepreneur with extended experience in the media industry and the CEO and founder of Supply Blockchain. He has more than 20 years experience as business executive level, working with Apple, Hubert Burda Media, and Avandor. He is a PhD candidate in blockchain studies and an associate professor at the University of Bucharest, graduating with the Executive Blockchain Academy at the University of California. Welcome, Sebastian.
Thank you for having me.
We have Andrei. Andrei Voinescu is a strategic digital leader who works with leading international consultancies across EMEA for over 12 years. He is focused on strategy, on mergers and acquisitions, and digital innovation. He has an MBA, Master of Sciences with distinction from UCL, and is a fellow of ACCA. And one of his focus areas is digital innovation and emerging technologies, including NFT, cryptos, and virtual worlds. Hello, Andrei.
Hello, Adrian. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here and looking forward to this great event.
We have Konstantin Starchev from Geneva. He is a software developer and researcher in the field of computer vision and extended reality. And he is vice president of the Swiss Society of Virtual and Augmented Reality since 2017. One example of his research activity, he was involved in the development of high-throughput DNA sequencing method by analyzing of microscopy images. And the method currently is known as Illumina DNA sequencing and is one of the leading methods in the field. The last devotion of Konstantin are virtual worlds, such as ScienceSpace, Altspace, Decentraland, and several others, where he is playing and developing. Hello, Konstantin.
Hello, nice to meet you, and thank you very much for inviting me in this interesting event. Thank you again.
Thank you. We have Călin Rangu, Director at Insurance Guarantee Fund, Dean of Business Administration and Economical Sciences Faculty, Danubius. He has both technical and economic academic background, a master in business administration, and a PhD related to neural networks applied in finance. He has more than 25 years experience in banking, out of which more than 17 having management responsibilities at both national and international level. Hello, Călin.
Hello, thank you for the invitation.
Adrian Codrlașu is having over 20 years of experience in banking and financial markets. Is CFA chart holder since 26. For the last 13 years, he was a member of CFA Romanian Board of Directors and Association's president 2 times, 2009-2011 and 2015-2020. He holds the title of Doctor of Economics with specialization in international finance and is an associate professor with Dauphine Doctoral School of Finance. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
And as Ileana was mentioning, we have a lawyer with us. So we are safe. Alexandru Stănescu, qualified in the New York Bar, USA, and speaking 4 foreign languages. Alex is a lawyer focused on commercial and corporate aspects of tech, and especially deep tech, such as blockchain and crypto. He was formerly the chief legal officer at JIT Platform, first automized masternodes enabler for more than 100 blockchains. Bună, Alex.
Hello, a pleasure to be today with you.
And let's start with the first round of presentations. Sebastian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Adrian. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here today. And I'm going to talk today about the value of decentralized platforms in the metaverse. I hope you can all see my presentation right now. And I will just go straight to it. So what is the metaverse? That's the big question, right? Well, it's quite easy to answer because we've been doing this for a while now. It wasn't called like that. It looks something like this. It's about people interacting in a virtual world, and it has a definition of being a virtual world where people can interact by using devices over the internet. And that's the easiest or the simplest definition that I could come up with right now. But you will see that things get a bit tricky as we move along. So let's talk a bit about the metaverse history and how it all came to be. In 1986, if you can believe it, there was the invention of the first virtual world, which was called Habitat. So 1986, right? It was just a couple of years after Macintosh was introduced to the world, and boy, those were the times. Later on in 1995, we had Meridian 59, which was the first 3D world. It was actually a game, and you can see on the screen that the graphics were not that great. However, the basis of what we have today were still there. Then in 2003, something interesting came along. It was called Second Life, and it had an economy. It was not only a virtual world where people could interact using the internet, a virtual three-dimensional world, but also people could use a currency within the game to sell and buy things, virtual assets. And that's an important milestone. Then, of course, we had World of Warcraft in 2004, which was an MMORPG and massively multiplayer online role-playing game. That's the long name of MMORPGs. And before they were called Metaverse, they were called MMORPGs, this kind of games. And then in 2006, something even more interesting came along, Roblox, which enabled you as a player to build your own world. And that was very interesting, and that was a game changer, pun intended, for the whole industry, because you could create your own reality. Then Minecraft came along in 2011, and these two games and these two virtual worlds are very important to be mentioned because they are thriving even today, and they are used maybe by our kids already, and they're still up and running. And now let's see, why is this metaverse important? Why is this hype all about, and why are we talking about this? Well, it gives you a sense of belonging. It's a basic human need. You need to belong to a group. You can't live alone. You need to be social. And that's a very deep need for ourselves. And it's reflected in the social media need. We want to be online to get along with people, together in groups. We need to be important and to have a status. And in order to have these online, we need to create an avatar. We need to duplicate our existence online. And if we can do that in a three-dimensional world, it's even better. And that's why the metaverse is important, because it enables us to exert it and to be important and to have a social status in a new world. And this is maybe the most important reason that the metaverse is important, because we have a way right now, and we start to have a way that is more and more blended with the real reality, if I can say so, to reinvent ourselves, to recreate ourselves, maybe to even fake a better version of ourselves, and not only do that on a social media account, but also doing it in a three-dimensional world that starts to feel like the real world more and more. Now, this is the very important part, and I left it last on purpose, because it's a way to reinvent our business, a way to reinvent the way we conduct business, and a way to make money in the end of the day, right? Now let's see how does the landscape of metaverse look in 2022. Well, you could do meetings. What we are doing right now, it somehow could be considered as being in a metaverse, because you see my background. I'm not actually, you can imagine, on a beach wearing a jacket. But we could even do that, as I showed in the first slide. We could do it virtually in a 3D world or in an augmented world. So we could conduct meetings and business. The economy could run within this three-dimensional virtual world, and that's a very, very important topic that is enabled by the metaverse. We could exchange goods, especially virtual assets, and this is very easy. Imagine that we have an online shop, we have an e-commerce website where we sell stuff. Up to now, it had been unidirectional. You could only sell your products using a website, and that's Web 2.0, where you could use and you could add maybe comments to your products. And now you could exchange goods in a three-dimensional world where things are more interactive. And of course, you could, in the metaverse, display art and works of art, and even host events like this one. What's the difference between the metaverse and the decentralized metaverse? Well, in the decentralized metaverse, the user economy is actually enabled in a peer-to-peer level, where users are the owners of their own assets. And then when you buy an asset, you are the direct owner without intermediaries. And then businesses can conduct their daily business over the metaverse by using a decentralized platform. You can exchange goods, and of course you can display art or host events, or even sell NFTs, non-fungible tokens, when it comes to art. So you can see that the metaverse in 2022, it's clone or an exact replica, or actually the same thing with the decentralized metaverse. The only difference is that one is with intermediaries, the other is not using intermediaries. It gives back the power to you. And let's talk about, or maybe just name a few of the platforms, decentralized platforms in the metaverse right now. So we have Decentraland, that was launched in 2017, where you could do basically the same things that you could have done in the old MMORPGs, but what's new is that you create your avatar and you can contribute to the user economy in a direct way without intermediaries and in a decentralized manner. Then we have CryptoVoxel that was launched in 2018, or even Sandbox that was launched last year. So these platforms actually are just a few of the platforms that are out there. There's no Facebook of decentralized metaverse yet. There's no one big player, but there are signs that things will get more homogeneous, and that one of these platforms probably will win. However, the good thing about the blockchain and the decentralized space is that there's no limit when it comes to competition. So we can expect maybe a newcomer to come this year and become this next Facebook of the decentralized space. Why should people consider entering a decentralized metaverse world instead of a centralized one? Well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, you are the owner of your assets. You are the owner of everything. And that's if that's important to you, then you should probably consider using a decentralized platform. Then, of course, this is the benefit of the use of blockchain technologies. You have transparency and trust within all transactions, and everything is just out there on a public blockchain instead of just being in a black box owned by a single entity. The use of NFTs, the use of non-fungible tokens, which are actually certificates of ownership of whatever you decide to sell. The easiest example here is just art. So you could sell art, digital art, over the metaverse, and you are the owner of the art, and then you can sell it to your community, to your fans, and you can even get, by using a smart contract, you can even get money out of the future sales of that digital asset. And one important thing that I think it shouldn't be just mentioned on the fourth item on a small screen. It's very, very important. It may change the way we conduct business or take decisions nowadays, is the use of decentralized autonomous organizations. So this concept actually changes the way we govern businesses or any other kind of social interaction. We may be able to vote over decisions that are taken in business. So the use of decentralized autonomous organization is very, very important over the blockchain. So you can't really do this in a centralized manner because it beats the purpose. How do I see the future and what lies ahead? Of course, the use of blockchain. I am a strong believer of the blockchain technologies and the way that they are changing the world. The future I see decentralized, of course, and user-owned, and most of all, free. And as William Gibson said, the future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. I'm gonna stop now and thank you for watching this presentation. And if you have any questions or you are curious about the blockchain, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
I have a question here. You said that okay, metaverse is a world where we can pretend. We can pretend to be better than we really are, and you know, here you don't know how far this can go. And then you mentioned that it's a way to promote our business and to do money. How do you see the trust problem in metaverse?
Well, as I said, in a decentralized platform, the trust is delegated to mathematics in the blockchain. So there's no intermediary that can actually be a single point of failure. And I think this is the most important thing that you can take into consideration when using a platform or 3D virtual platform, that the trust is delegated to mathematics instead of delegating it to money or to people or to institutions. And yes, we can pretend to be someone else. We are doing that for a long time, since the invention of the internet. However, now we can do it more and better and better and better, and we can fool our senses into even looking differently, such as my background right now, right?
So you are pretending to be on the beach in Panama, and Mihai is there.
And you are pretending to be in a Texas home, probably, or?
No, in a Romanian home in Oltenia. I'm not there.
Or it looks like Texas.
I see. Any other questions now for Sebastian? I think we can go further, and we mentioned about Sebastian did a very good presentation of the history, very insightful. Didn't know all the ancient history of metaverse, to say so. Now, to see which is the connection between metaverse and NFTs, and why are NFTs important. And I'll give the floor to Andrei.
Thank you, Adrian. I will just share my screen again. Only if I can decide which screen is the right screen. Boom.
Okay.
I suppose this is the one. So can you see a big red thing? Is this the right? Yeah, this is the right one. So hello. First of all, thank you, Sebastian, for your presentation. That was very insightful. I'll try to take it from here and look a little bit about the connection between metaverse and NFTs, but I'm not going to explore it so structurally. First of all, I was asking myself the same question, you know, what is this metaverse? Because let's face it, this term hasn't existed until, I don't know, 6 months ago. So it's quite new, and people throw a lot of meaning to it, and it's apparently the new gold rush. Most definitions usually involve some sort of crypto. You kind of have to have some sort of cryptocurrency to be there. Whatever that cryptocurrency may be, people look at a social media angle and gaming. So weirdly enough, most of the things that you're talking about. That being said, NFTs are used more and more in the context of metaverse, and people talk about what might happen, what might come next. Are we going to have concerts on the metaverse, or social media, or actually go to work in the metaverse, or go shopping in the metaverse? I think it's important to just recognize the novelty and recognize this is a moving feast and keep our eyes on it. It's all going to change. I'm sure if we're going to do this presentation in 3 to 6 months from now, all of us will slightly change our angle there. So how big can it be? I'm very passionate about actually quantifying things, right? If you can't quantify it, in my books, it means you haven't really thought about it. And I found this a report from ARK Invest, which is a US-based tech investor. They have 23 billion assets under administration, and they look at where growth might happen. And in the left, in the gray area, it quantifies all the non-innovation equity. And they say, look, all the non-innovation equity in the world currently, it's 94 trillion. Let's say 100 trillion to make it rounder. And then it looks, okay, how much can this be in 10 years from now, in 2030? Well, not even 10 years, 8 years from now. And they say, well, from 100 million, it can go to 126, which is not a lot. That means that if you are in outside the innovation space, you're not going to see too much growth, right? Unless you're disrupted or unless you're adopting, you're not going to see too much space. Then they look at the top 5 technologies that will see exponential growth. And I'm just going to quote 4 of them: AI, battery, robotics, and gene sequencing, which again, they're going to see a lot of growth, but those are in the hands of a few big corporates, right? When you talk about AI, yes, it's nice to talk about it in a good way, but realistically, your Googles, IBMs, and so forth will kind of own them. That's the reality, and they'll sell them to their clients. When you talk about battery technology, you're actually talking about a few large players. Similar with gene sequencing. I mean, this is not something that the average investor can go to. However, there's that one yellow in the middle that says, look, today it's worth 1.4 trillion, but in 10 years might be 50 trillion. That means if you invest now, theoretically, if you're just doing average, you'll get 35 times your return. That's 3,500% return. That's massive. And the fact that you don't need a bank account or a broker to get a piece of the action is massive. It's a game changer, right? You don't need to be an institutional investor that's listed on whatever stock exchange that has massive cost of entry. Most people can enter. And that's why this is so exciting. Or maybe that's a part of why this is so exciting. Cool. I want you to get involved a little bit. I like going to the movies. This picture is not about the movie. I'll come back to this picture. But recently I've seen the latest James Bond movie. Do you remember the title of the latest James Bond movie? Just been released like a few months ago. Anybody?
No Time to?
No Time to Die, that's true. So it was quite a good hit. But do you remember the largest James Bond movie in terms of sales? The name of it. It was a massive blockbuster, like one of those old classic Hollywood blockbusters. Do you remember the name of that James Bond movie? Anybody? It was called Skyfall, right? So James Bond's Skyfall, and it set a very, very big milestone in terms of the movie industry. It grossed at $1 billion US, right? That was absolutely massive. The fact that the movie can bring in $1 billion US in that day was mind-blowing. Nobody believed it can happen. Now back to this picture. This is a picture from Call of Duty. Call of Duty last year made $1 billion a week only in its mobile division, right? It's like having a Skyfall blockbuster every week just for a mobile division, right? This is how massive gaming is. And that's the main reason why Microsoft paid Activision, the owner of Call of Duty and all the other franchises, $75 billion. And the fees, the investment fees, as their CEO represented them to the Financial Times in January, was because it's a step towards the metaverse. Right? So I don't know too much about metaverse, but I know that a lot of smart people are putting a lot of money in it. And also Mark Zuckerberg named his company after it. I mean, he must know something, I guess. Good. So we touched a little bit, well, my previous speaker touched a little bit about social. This is just the cumulative number of hours on Fortnite, which is a game, by the way. It's a game that kids play, apparently. And that purple line, it's about the million of hours that people play on it, right? That's a lot of million hours played. And it all started as a game back in 2017, and people played it, and then some collaboration began. And then you began to have concerts there in this game. And then you began to have shows that are being launched, or boxing matches, or NBA matches that were being launched, and it became a little bit more than a game. It became, you know, a worldwide phenomenon, and it began to have its own economy. Now, I would argue that the economy is a little bit faked there. You put some dollars in it, and you can buy some assets like, you know, swords or whatever items you have, or T-shirts. And you can create some of them and you can sell them to other people. But fundamentally, you're creating stuff that you do not own. So this is not the metaverse from as far as I'm concerned. You're creating things that you do not own, and then you sell it to people who do not own them as well. If somebody changes the code a little bit in the background, your very cool T-shirt that sold for, I know, $1 a piece to 10,000 people worldwide just disappears. Right? That's a big problem. And the point that the real metaverse will make is that you'll have concepts such as scarcity and ownership. And it's beginning to get there. Just coming a little bit about social media, right? Social media platforms are scaling at a massive rate, right? It took Facebook and YouTube 8 years to get to 1 billion user. Now it takes TikTok only 5 years to go to the same levels, right? Things are growing fast. If you're successful, expect to grow fast. Good. So we have this very interesting intersection of gaming, social, utility, and where are those NFTs coming in? So just a small intro, NFTs traditionally are seen as pictures, right? A picture of a monkey or of a skull or of a penguin or of a cat. And because they're made in a very scarce way, it means that they have some sort of value. And by the way, most of them don't have any value because anybody can create a picture. But somehow, if you put it on a blockchain of some sorts, and if somebody can buy it with a wallet, which then proves ownership, and only you have it, then you have all the rights. Well, theoretically, you have all the rights. We'll probably hear from our lawyer, which will tell us that you don't have any rights, I would imagine. Then people just attribute value to them. So some of those JPEGs, which are just minted on the blockchain, and by the way, when I say blockchain, it might seem a little bit ethereal and a little bit out there, but think about it as a different storage mechanism, right? The only difference is that you can just prove that you own it, usually with a wallet address and a private key. In this case, some pictures are managing to worth millions. So for example, recently one of the Bored Apes pictures sold, I think, for 30 million to Eminem or one of the big artists. The punks, the little picture you can see on the top left with the little pipe there, sold for, I think, 5 million as well. So you have those pictures which kind of exist somewhere under this blockchain. And by the way, when I say blockchain, I'm meaning a specific blockchain because there are more. And that people somehow pay crazy amounts of money for them. And theoretically, it's anonymous. So it's a little bit crazy, isn't it? But it kind of feeds into this world where you have social, you can use it, you can present yourself using this picture, and then you can play a game with it, like in Axie Infinity. That's one of the big games that people play right now, using NFTs as either the character or as a reward for playing the game. There are more games, Alice in Wonderland, Luvian, Joffrey. I mean, I can go on and on about gaming and metaverse. And on the right, I've made this. This is the red part of the Venn diagram. It's about virtual worlds, and Sandbox is probably one of the first virtual world there where you can build your own world. And if your world is nice and people want to come to it, you get paid in, they call it SAM, which is the token of the world, which is traded, so it has real monetary value. So we're now beginning to have some principles of ownership, some principles of economy, some principles of scarcity, and as Sebastian mentioned, some principles of trust, right? Those are very, very powerful ingredients. And somehow the Web 0.3 or the metaverse, whatever intersection that might be, somehow promises to bring them all together. It's not clear how. People are still developing this. You'll have entrepreneurs right now which maybe have, well, maybe they're by themselves, maybe they have a small team, which will be the next billionaires because they created a great NFT project or a great place where NFT horses can race with each other and win competitions. And somehow that has value. It's a very fine intersection. I was asked about crypto a lot and you know how to explain crypto, and the easiest way to explain it for me was to explain what is not. And in a way, I kind of said, look, crypto is probably the intersection of everything that you didn't know about computers with everything that you didn't know about money, right? And it's complex, but it's coming. So I want to continue in that vein and show you what I don't think the metaverse is, even if people are claiming it is. So we have Walmart. If you're in the US, you have seen it, you have heard about Walmart, but it's the biggest revenue company in the world, right? There's no other company in the world that makes more revenue than Walmart. I think somewhere around 557 billion per year. It's massive, right? And it's a shopping mall. You can go and shop stuff. You can buy your groceries there. So they've launched this metaverse shopping assistant that you connect with your goggles and you go shopping. And when you pick up some cheese, they'll tell you, hey, you know, this cheese pairs very, very good with this Pinot Noir, and you can have this South African Pinotage, which goes great with whatever Roquefort cheese you have. And for me, that's not the metaverse, that is hell. I don't want to push a freaking trolley down a virtual alley and have somebody telling me what to shop and what not to shop. That's just like a shameless marketing scheme. That is exactly what you get if you ask people that are 30 years older than me and never seen the metaverse or never been in technology. If you ask how you can apply this. Similarly, JP Morgan, this is the largest bank in America and the second one in the world after Bank of China. They created a metaverse lobby where you can go to check your bank account and your saving, and you can see your transaction history and freaking wait in a virtual lobby. Can you imagine that? Waiting in a virtual lobby to be served. I mean, that's clearly not where the world is going. I may be a little bit grumpy now, but I don't think that's a real promise of the metaverse. I think those are just large corporations, probably with too many consultants, who are telling them, you have to do something. Let's just do whatever you've done before, but in a metaverse way, and make some publicity out of it. But that, you know, that's the first step. Sorry for bashing very, very, very large corporates. That's the first step, but they will learn. They'll pour money into it, and we'll see something very interesting happening from both big money and I think new entrepreneurs, new creators, new designers, new tech genius that will embrace this world. And in a way, I'm referring a little bit to British colonial past now. It's like discovering America, right? Yeah, right. To discover a new piece of land, you don't know how big it is, but you have this world of opportunity, which can become bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, and in a way, in this shopping mall, maybe at some point you can see NFTs that are for sale. Do you want a Bored Ape with that wine? Who knows? Coming a little bit back to gaming, what's interesting is that maybe until the late 90s, you wanted the game, you pay for it, right? You pay 20 bucks, you get the game, you play it, you finish the campaign, you put it back, and then you get the next game, or you buy it, or you borrow it from less pretentious sources like the Pirate Bay. And then maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was this shift that some games, not all of them, you can play them for free, or you pay a lower entry price, but then you have to pay more, right? You pay as you go in a way. You want a cool object, you pay, or you want the expansion pack, you pay, or you want access to whatever thing, you pay, or you get it for free, but you cannot pass whatever level without paying. So it kind of went from pay to play to free to play, but freemium is not exactly free. However, if you're looking at what happens right now in the gaming world, so like in Axie Infinity, your Illuvium, your big, not big, but your emerging gaming sim in the metaverse, you don't have to pay necessarily. You can actually get paid. Right? I'm going to repeat that. You're going to get paid to play. If you play, if you're good, if you're winning level, you're going to get paid in sand. If you're paying, if you're playing in Sandbox, and sand actually is quite valuable if you look at the exchange rates of it, right? And that's massive. I think that proposition, that value proposition, will be so irresistible to the player that they'll just migrate to whatever game that plays well, it's good, has good graphic and a good gameplay, but also pays them, right? If I'm going to spend 100 hours playing Call of Duty, I want to spend 1,000 hours or 100 hours playing the Call of Duty that gives me some money and maybe a cool NFT to show to my friends. And I think that's going to be the next big revolution in gaming. Cool. So this is kind of my final slide. It's about the future. I'm not really sure where it's going to go. I'm pretty sure that you'll see more and more about the blockchain, about crypto, about gaming and NFTs, and the intersection of it. And in a way, a very good user interface for it all will be what we kind of call the metaverse. Maybe the final note, because I was very, very excited about this until now. The final note will be, this is an emerging technology, right? It's just being started, and there's a lot of risks there, right? We like to talk about the Bored Ape, which was sold for $30 million, and think that the Bored Ape collection is great and amazing, and we should get an ape. But you have no idea who bought it or who sold it. You have no idea if a Colombian drug trafficker used it to get some money from a Russian sanctioned oligarch, right? You don't know. And regulators will start paying attention. And I think if you, as a creator or as a platform or as a marketplace or as a medium to intermediate this deal, if you haven't thought about those risks, and if you haven't taken enough steps to prevent risk, money laundering, terrorist financing, et cetera, you're going to be in a very, very, very sticky position. So yes, it's a gold rush, but regulators will catch up. And because there's no central ownership, once you've sold your first Bored Ape for, let's say, $0.01 to somebody, you have no idea what that somebody can do afterwards. Anyway, on that note, connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. If you find my name, yeah, you'll see where I work, connect and drop a line. And yeah, let's talk about this.
It was fun, Andrei, hearing the consultant telling us that the big companies are hiring too many consultants.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A short question before going on. You mentioned about the value, and you don't know what about the value and who will sell with what and so on. What about NFT's valuation?
It's very ethereal, isn't it? In the NFT worlds, you have collections, and you have a creator which creates a collection. Most collections usually have 10,000 NFTs in them, or variation, could be 7,000 or something like that. And theoretically, this is what most creators tell you, is that I have a concept, I want to create a whale or a monkey or whatever penguin I want to create, which looks standard, right? So it's very, very recognizable. And then you have an AI, which can be a manual thing actually, or some if formulas in the back, which then looks at some assets. And by assets, I mean designer assets like a pipe, like a halo, like a rocket launcher, whatever, and randomly assigns them to that collection. Anyway, what that means, it means that from the collection of 10,000 monkeys, 2,000 will have a yellow shirt. And that's very, very common. 20% will have a yellow shirt, but only 0.01% will have a laser in the eye.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. The question is not about how they are generated and how the presumably value is. How I can explain value to the tax authorities?
I don't think you can really.
This is the point.
I don't think you credibly can. You can show how much you paid for it, right? In crypto, presumably. But if you paid, let's say, a Bitcoin for a Bored Ape 2 years ago, that's, I know, $20,000. Now a Bitcoin is, I know, twice that. Tomorrow it can be zero. In 10 years, it can be $1 million.
And this is a very fast, very, very gray space, in my opinion, but we'll have the opportunity to get into more details about it maybe in the roundtable. Thank you very much, Andrei.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll go on with the initial set of how the metaverse is built. And, there are the shows in the Discovery Channel, how it's made. And Constantin, I didn't mention in the introduction that you are passionate about intelligent agents and about pets and about presumably future intelligent pets in the metaverse. It's very good to have someone who really develops it. But I will start with a simple question. The last presentation of the Swiss Society for virtual and extended reality was called, let me see here, the anti-hype conference of the metaverse. And the question is, do you think metaverse is a hype?
Yes, I think so. Currently, but probably we are still not on the top of the hype. Actually, nobody knows where is the top. That's the problem. If not, everybody here will be millionaire. You see. But yes, and this hype, because as the first speaker here told, it was very nice presentation. The metaverse is not new. It exists from the years 90. And there are a lot of examples, like Second Life, for example, which was probably not the first successful metaverse, but the first most known metaverse, actually. And Second Life is still earning money. I mean, it's very rare for a game to be so long successful. But the hype come actually from the announce of Facebook, who actually called his environment Meta, and this, like, say, excited everybody. Now everybody nearly told for the metaverse, and so like this is something new, you see. And this is good. I like it. I think this is a good point, and this can help all people developing in this domain to be more successful. So yeah, I think so.
Now we have the opportunity to have you here and to ask you to give us some details about the typical metaverse ecosystem. What is the architecture of a metaverse? If you can explain at high level something about it.
Okay, I will try. Actually, I talk about the conference before with you, and I will try to be not very technical. I think it's not the goal here to be technical, but mostly to see the opportunity, to see the definitions. So I will start with, let's say, very basic presentation. Partially, I give this in our last meeting. Why this doesn't work? Oops. Here it is. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
So I would like first to talk about the Swiss Society of Virtual and Augmented Reality and our application in the metaverse. I'm very thankful that you invite us here in this conference, and I just want to tell to everybody that we have a very nice collaboration with our Romanian partners, and think to participate in some European projects together. Unfortunately, currently Switzerland is not well accepted in Europe scientific projects, but this could change very soon. So what is the Swiss Society of Virtual and Augmented Reality? Actually, we are the most active, probably not the biggest, but the most active such association in Switzerland, and we have been involved from 2016 in promoting and explaining the virtual and augmented reality technologies. But currently we have more than 300 members, and they are not only from Switzerland, but over all the world. So we think for us like a worldwide association, and we are very active in the States. We are also active in UK. And we are basically doing meetings. We have as event partners Google, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, Huawei, and few other companies. We are also doing consulting for our members. We can offer free consulting. We are able also to do some development. And of course, we all are very fond of the metaverse from quite a lot of time. But in the current hype, as you say, we decided to go to an interesting project. The project is to build autonomous bots, or autonomous, we call these agents, in the metaverse, which could be human or animal. We have been excited for this project for Rupert, which is our very valuable member who works in Google. And he presented very interesting project in our organized in Google meeting in Zurich about the avatars who can live after the death of the person. So we start with this project, and then we understand that it's very complicated project. So we switch to something which is more simple. This is developing animal bots or animal agents, which are intelligent and will be like the pets, our pets in the real life. So, but first, I want to talk to tell you some thoughts about what is the metaverse. Actually, the first two speakers here explaining this already, but I want to give kind of my point on the subject, and I can simply say that actually we don't know what is the metaverse right now, and I can give an example with the old technology, which was innovative, let's say in 1901. This was the car. We can see here a picture of a car in 1901, and you can easily understand that actually people didn't know how the car should look like at those times. So since they don't know what the car should be, they took something they know, and this is a chariot. They put an engine on this chariot, they put a steering wheel, they put some other stuff, brakes, and they say, okay, this is the car. And we can see the same car nowadays, which is very, very different looking, but still has the same elements. The car have wheels, the car have a steering wheel, have engine. So the conclusion is that why we don't know exactly what the metaverse is, we can probably define this by some intrinsic and immutable properties which we know now. And here is an example of Space in 2022. And we can see here some stuff which, in my opinion, are immutable. This is that this virtual world is in 3D. The virtual world has avatar, which are player presentation. They are completely controlled by the player. And what is also interesting that we can have many, more than one avatar in the metaverse. So the avatars is communicating each to other. Nowadays, we are talking for massive multiplayer games. That means that we have a lot of avatars which are simultaneously presented in the same space, and they communicate each to other. This is like, I will say, like media, actually, communication media. Currently in Space, the stress tests show that we can have up to 500 avatars in the same space, which is, when you understand what is the computation behind, we can understand that this is quite a challenging problem. Then in the metaverse, you have furniture. Furniture is everything which is static, and it's like a meuble in our normal world. And finally, we have agents, which are intelligent or not so intelligent, and we can call that these non-player characters. So these agents are autonomously going on the metaverse. They are doing some stuff and so on. So in the conclusion, we can say that, okay, we don't know really how the metaverse should look like, but we simply copy the real life in the metaverse for the moment and use some elements which we believe are immutable in the future. I will talk here more about autonomous agents because they are, let's say, our specialty. And I can define this like object which has complete or intelligent behavior, or we talk very often for the free will. And I am technical guy, and I can simply define the free will by a technical point of view. I'm not interested from the philosophical point of this stuff. So in the left part here of the screen, we can see a random, what is called random walk. I took it from Wikipedia. And a random walk is the movement of the object which are completely random in any direction. In the middle, we can see an example of the walk of the real animal, which is looking for the food. And we can see that between these two pictures is clear difference. For example, the animal go around a special place, then suddenly go fast to another place, and then we'll explore this place again. It's like my wife when he's going to shopping, it will not go randomly on the shops in the street, but go to a special street, basically where she found a discount, and then spend a lot of time in these shops. But then when go out of the shops, he go fast to the next shop and then spend a lot of time in the next shop. So we call this intelligent behavior or free will. And the same behavior we can see of our pet, which we developed it in Science Space. It's called the Ruby Rabbit, and we can give him a carrot. So without carrot, the rabbit will go around you and looking in your eyes, and like if you want to say, give me something. And when we give him the carrot, he go fast to the carrot, eat it, and then go back around and go around you. So of course, people will say, okay, but this is just programming. I agree, this is a programmed behavior, but who knows, probably we are also programmed to do the same. You see, from my point of view, I am just looking for phenomenological behavior of the agent, and for my point of view, this is enough to say that these guys are intelligent. That's right.
Just to make sure that I understand, are intelligent because they are able to respond to some motivation stimulus from outside.
Yes, but also they are intelligent because they have the same behavior, just phenomenologically, by observation, they have the same behavior like real animals. You and I, we actually don't know how our brain works. We know that this is kind of hardware, which is based on carbon, and we know that our intelligent agents have also some hardware, but based in silicon, which chemically is very simple, very similar. But we don't know how the algorithms of our brain are working. So I'm not trying here to replicate the algorithms which are working on the brain, but I am developing algorithms which give the same behavior like the algorithms working in our brain. So here is another explanation about the avatars and non-player characters, and this based on interactivity versus autonomy. In the left side, you see example of the game very known to everybody. This is a Super Mario, and Super Mario is perfectly controlled by the human player. We call this interactivity, and Super Mario could be called avatar. And on the right side, you see another very cool game. This is Dooms, and demons in the Dooms are perfectly independent from the player. They do on their own. So we call this non-player characters. Our pets developing in Science Space are somewhere in between, because exactly like the real pet, they will react to the player command, for example, sit down or go with me, but they have also his own opinion, and they will not always do what we are asked them. They will do also something which we don't ask them. They do something they, how I said before, they have the free will. One question which is important for us, because we are looking to earn money and not just developing for the fun, is why people will get pet in the metaverse. And the response is why actually people get pets in the real life. And the response to this is very simple, because pets make them happy. And they make them happy because they are amazing, because they are lovely. Actually, we love our pets, and because they are intelligent, they make some fun stuff, and they make us happy. That's the point. And the same stuff have to be valid also for the metaverse. We have, and our goal is to develop pets which are, of course, not more intelligent than us, because nobody wants to have a dog more intelligent than himself, but have enough intelligence to become funny, to become lovely, and the people to be attached to these pets. And then they will go to the metaverse and play with these pets like they go to play with their real real life animals. So that's the goal. But of course, there are problems here, and this is the ownership issue. Because if you have our pets in the metaverse, we don't want to lose them like we don't lose our pets in the real life. And the question is that currently, in the current state of the art, we are completely dependent on the metaverse owners or the virtual world owner, because if he, for example, he decides to stop the business simply, or change the user conditions, or let's say simply increase the monthly fee or whatever, well, we can lose all our assets, including our pets, in this virtual world. So we have here the simple problem for import the pets, which should be able to any virtual world. And then, for example, if one virtual world stop business, we have to be able to import our pets to another virtual world. And here we have kind of technical issue, because there are no file format for that. There are some file formats which help us to export 3D assets like object or FBX, but virtual pets are more than a simple 3D object. They have also programs inside, they have training data and much more. But also there are some kind of, let's say, business issue, because virtual world didn't communicate in between, and generally speaking, we are not able to take assets from one virtual world and import to another virtual world. And of course, the common way to solve this problem is the NFTs. And people here are much bigger expert than me on the NFTs, but I would like also to talk to share here some thoughts about the problem. Principally, NFT is really perfect to share intelligent objects between different worlds, because it's kind of program and also contains some data. But we have one big problem. This is that currently NFTs are based on a blockchain technology, and this is very low efficient technology. As developer, I can compare this to a very, very low efficient database. And you can see here a picture which I borrow for IOTA website. And on the left part, you can see the example of the blockchain technology. In the blockchain technology, we have something which is called miners. And user who want to buy, let's say, to mine the NFT, have always to go through a miner. So the miners mine blocks, let's say, and have to have consensus about the validity of the block. And when they have this consensus, only the consensus block is attached to the blockchain. Blockchain, actually, we can see the name is a chain. That means that every next block should be attached to the previous. All other blocks, however, which use mining are waste. They are not used at all. And they pose two problems. The first problem is the efficiency because it takes a lot of time, because this is only a linear process. And of course, this waste of the blocks is waste of energy and the computer power. And this poses also a second problem. You have a mediator. The mediator is the miner. You have to pay this mediator. And currently, that's quite expensive. Actually, somebody here told that this is for free. But currently, to mine NFT based on the Ethereum is about $150. And that was so expensive in the last peak of the Ethereum that some virtual world even stopped mining NFT because it was meaningless or impossible to mine NFT on a reasonable price. So the solution exists and is based on non-blockchain technology developed currently by IOTA. And in this technology, you have no actually miners. That's the point. User is connected directly to the nodes, and the nodes are not sequential. They are parallel. Each node is connected to 2 or 3 more. So the computation is parallel, and it's made for a huge efficiency and much faster technology. So again, I am not an expert in the blockchain, and I am not going here to make a publicity of IOTA. I didn't have IOTA actually. I have some other cryptocurrency like Cardano. But what I just want to say is that the current technology has some problems. There are some questions, but that doesn't mean that it will not be used. Just in contrary, I believe that in the future, people will find, let's say, efficient solutions, and this technology will be certainly the next big stuff on the world.
Being a little bit aware, over of time.
I'm sorry, I am finishing. Let's take a home message. We have a lot of open questions nowadays, but I believe in the future we will have find the solution of these problems, and we can build a valuable business based on the metaverse. Thank you.
I wanted to ask one question, maybe with a brief answer. The car of 2143, the metaverse in 2143. Of course, we don't know how it will look, but what do you think it will be really different soon in the metaverse?
We simply don't know how it should be. For example, and there are also other examples in the previous speaker, currently, a few months ago, actually, one Switzerland banks buy for more than 1 million assets in Decentraland. They probably believe that they will open a bank office there. They will sell loans like in the real world. But actually, nobody is interested to buy a loan in the virtual world. So we know there's some business in this stuff. We know more or less how this should look like, but we don't really know how it will be in the future.
Loans in the virtual world with crypto and with mortgage virtual assets, probably.
Yeah, that looks really crazy, but okay, they believe that will be the reality. I don't know.
Thank you, Constantin, and very, very interesting your initiative about the intelligent agents. I wish to see also cats. Let's go on. To after we have an insight about how metaverse looks and about the business and the technical constituents. Maybe you should see.
How to stop the sharing here? Here it is. Yeah. Okay.
we are good. Călin, metaverse, I asked also Sebastian, we are having an avatar, we are anonymous, and we are interacting with other avatars. And then there are coming a lot of ethical questions. And what can you tell us about the social and ethical implications of our interactions in the virtual world?
Yes, indeed, everything is looking very nice from one perspective, but how all things are having two faces, we should look also to this ethical and, in fact, risk management phase of everything what we are doing. But first of all, probably the ethical speech is a little demotivating, presenting different things that can be treated carefully, and maybe some people can be scared. But in the same time, it's clear this metaverse world, these technologies about what we are speaking, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and metaverse, it's an appliance of these technologies and other technologies, is the future. So we cannot be scared. We should only know how to take it and have a nice life there. And probably more and more people will go and will search this metaverse, because after crazy period of pandemia, now it's a crazy period with the war in Ukraine. Probably to go in metaverse and to be a little happy there without too many problems can be a solution for some people, and they should be ready for this. But indeed, we should be concerned about privacy and general ethical framework around XR, extended reality, which includes virtual reality, because we are having three components: virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality. And what data is collected to these metaverse systems, and where does the data go, and how are them used? We can move into a situation where we have all reality, intimate, biometric, and psychological data that is being radiated from our bodies, captured by this technology, because we are having there a helmet, we are having different devices that we are putting on our body, and practically this technology is capturing, and it's possible to start to undermine some fundamental rights so far. If we don't have mental privacy and biological privacy, some of these new technologies could essentially read our minds, model our identity, reach fine-grained and contextually relevant conclusion, and then nudge our behaviors to the point where it undermines our intentional actions, the previous one. These intentions are coming from the nature of humans in general. We are searching for emotions. There are some analyses telling that in 2030 will be two main industries: insurance and entertainment, because insurance is speaking about fears, about negative emotions and how to be covered, and entertainment is covering the nice emotions, so what is amusing, what is making our life nicer. And from this reason, we should take care how this new world can hurt our ability to make decisions within the integrity, without being influenced by all other external influences. Like an example, one particular concern when we are speaking about metaverse and virtual reality in general, it's eye tracking, which is obviously something that VR and augmented reality devices are going to be able to do it. Advertisers did eye tracking to see how people read and react to the words that they are reading. Eye tracking was really a map of somebody's mind and intent. It also is something that, if you think about how on a web browser you move the mouse in this moment on your screen, it is used to identify. The concern is things like that can be used to infer intent, even some conscience. That should be controlled by the owner, and we should manage this, and we should not be should leave this to others. Should not allow this tracking to the intervention and to the arbitrary of someone else. So even when we externalize things in the metaverse, because it's clear we are externalizing our behaviors, our body, in fact, with that avatar, and we are looking at how these eyes are moving in a VR space outside of the Googles that we are working with them in normal daily activity. You can still build a digital, practically you are building a digital fingerprint, just like you can fingerprint walking and other things. So those things will need to be protected, and users should have the right to privacy and not surround those rights in the metaverse. We're still debating what the metaverse is without having a real consensus on the definition. One of the current definition is the iteration of internet and social networks and gaming. So we are having three components: internet, social networks, and gaming in convergence. It translates the problems that we already know about social media, about internet governance, about artificial intelligence ethics. Autonomous systems have already been very troublesome in the ethical domain. The problems would get together in the metaverse because we are adding this layer of immersiveness of the technology. A lot of this data is being taken out of our bodies in a very unconscious way. So we are not able to prevent that. So the problems that where we are already known and the rights we already surround it, and in talking about artificial intelligence ethics, there are huge groups of people at European level who are analyzing this, analyzing human rights over the internet, and we should translate all this discussion in the conversation about the metaverse consciously. What somebody is thinking and doing before they do, then you provide some sort of ads in the metaverse, and that is going to trigger them to buy something. Then that could be a lot worse in the metaverse than now, because they will identify very clear your intent, your behavior, your aptitudes, your expectation. Because in this moment with the metaverse, you are expecting a fusion of all the sensors that are which we are in interaction, where all of these data collection devices come together, gathering data that's coming from our body, but also from things like the brain control interfaces and the neural data, and eventually being able to potentially decode our thoughts. So our thoughts, our ideas, but also our actions and what we are doing, these technologies are aware of our context. I think there is a paradigm shift, in fact, that needs to happen between thinking about identity, thinking about privacy in terms of our identities, something that is a static, immobile object, because all of the laws are defining whether or not that information that gets out is going to be able to identify us, which I think it can be a concept. We'll have the biometrical data and get contextually relevant artificial intelligence on top of all the sensors fusion, because we are putting these devices on our body, where these are the sensors, but we are applying applications with artificial intelligence or blockchain or the new technologies that the previous speaker presented very nice. So all this can model our actions, our behaviors, our emotional reaction, psychological reaction to things that we can even control, like subliminal advertising. It operates at this unconscious level. It is going to start to get to this point where we are sort of sleepwalking in a dystopia world. Dystopia means when the organs are not at their places or appear other organs and the things are moved structural. And there is not a clear way legally to put up much resistance. Paternical approach is to say you should never use any of this data, or you should only use it for medical application. And from an entertainment perspective, you will need this data to refine the entertainment. How do you draw the line between the contextual relevance and the use and the appropriate use of that data in that entertainment context? You can set up a last bastion of privacy or create the worst surveillance technology that we have ever seen. So the red line is quite thin in this moment. What level of ethical responsibility can be allocated to companies, to platforms going to have over allowing the personal sovereignty? One of the problems is that the internet is universal and globally decentralized, but law is often territorial in nature. That makes it hard to govern technologies on a global basis, and it will get harder to govern as technology is decentralized, how also a previous speaker mentions the Web3 model. If you see the tech for the metaverse in an open environment or concentrated in a walled garden with a wall around us, we need to have a push for stronger consumer protection, because we are speaking here about consumer protection in fact. Otherwise, we'll be at the mercy of the platform's terms and conditions that anyway we don't read it when we sign off automatically, and after that we are going in black finally. Yeah, Europe had a strong legislation at this level, so GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, influenced strongly all this part of this privacy law. The law should require that to have opt-in rights for use of this data for artificial intelligence trainings and other purposes. This decentralization and crypto payments could be a strong force to push for an open metaverse, because legislation is a follower. You can see about crypto payments. We don't have also legislation in this moment. Don't exist a legislation. Everything is done based on the trust on a technology and the wish of the people to be part of that technology and that network. But it's out of specific regulation. So this metaverse will create another open world, in fact, similar with internet, similar with crypto payment network. Should appear an ethical responsibility to provide interoperability, because if it doesn't exist, that neither does the metaverse. There are a lot of examples of different applications in this moment, but these are silos. We should put these silos, if we will speak about metaverse, all this should be interoperable, should be interconnected in a way or other, and you be capable to travel from one metaverse world to other. Facebook is creating his metaverse. XRChat has other metaverse. It was live, Second Life 15 years ago, and so on. So it should be, in one moment, it is a very similar to how we have internet access model with different internet service providers. But generally, the experience of internet service providers is invisible to us, because we are receiving a service, we don't know what is in the back, we don't know how these internet service providers are connected. Also, this metaverse world should be similar in a moment when this will be generalized in a way or other. If you can't easily move between platforms, if you are stuck in a particular garden, which we tend to see that model pop up frequently, it is not a real metaverse. And what responsibility of this company will have to actually work together to ensure cross-platform access of this metaverse world. Probably should be create a standard set of interoperable APIs, application programming interfaces, to connect all these metaverses small world. The problem of social economical disparity throughout the globe and how the changes from local to local also will be a subject. How can companies grant equal access to others around the world? And some people are saying, okay, we are going to metaverse, don't have the real world problems. Some people are poor, some are rich, maybe there the things are nicer. But in fact, there also the land should be buy on with money. Some people can go to buy an NFT, others don't. So the same is that the disparities will be kept also in the metaverse world. So will not be only a nice world, everything with free lunch. And one of the push of this metaverse world is in fact the mobile phone revolution that will develop this metaverse. And probably it's as far as the hardware and bandwidth needs, will have probably pretty good coverage. That's an evolution of what the mobile phone has done for the most of the world. Will be an extension covering what mobile phone is doing now in the metaverse. Metaverse probably will be distributed via cloud services that can be decentralized and that could give equal access for information throughout this open web services. The challenge is a lack of a clear path of how we get to both an accessible technology and one that guarantees a lot of rights that we would otherwise surround with surveillance capitalism. When we think about ethics, that might not seem actionable, and there's a difficulty to translate it into a good practices that could be put in practice in everyday work. As long as ethical principles are just a guideline without concrete obligation, we are probably going to risk a failure. It's not something we are going to solve easily, but it is something that we are hoping that as we go into the development of the metaverse, we are going to be with open eyes, wide and open at this issue. But how in internet we are living very well with risks, but we know to manage. And from here, education is very important. Technical education, financial education, people to know how to use this infrastructure. From this reason, at our university, at Danubius University, we launched for the first time, probably in Romania, a FinTech Master for economists. They understand how to develop products, how to use, like example, this metaverse to make money, but in a way that to be ethical, to be professional, to respect consumer protection legislation. That will be very important. And this FinTech Master will help in this development. So I think these are a few ideas. Some of them are taken by a venture bit study. So not, of course, I done a search. What are the ethical issues on metaverse? So these are some ideas that maybe can be useful for thinking from this other side, in fact, dark side of the possible what will happen in future in metaverse world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Călin. Actually, I noticed that each and every presentation so far posed the legal issues, and I realize now that it was a very good idea to keep Alex at the end with his presentation, because I'm sure that he will answer all the questions. But until then, we have Adrian Codârlașu, who, okay, you'll probably also have some legal challenges to Alex, but expectation is to have here some more economic perspective about crypto and metaverse.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for the invitation for this very interesting conference. I'll speak some points about the economics of the metaverse or metaverses. As my previous speakers presented at the beginning of the conference, there are various steps of metaverses that were developed, starting with games or with other social applications. And there are two kinds of metaverses. One is the centralized one, like, for example, the Minecraft or Roblox. So in a centralized metaverse, there is a company behind that constructs this metaverse and sell various items in this metaverse. On the other hand, once the blockchain industry developed, there are decentralized metaverses. So in these decentralized metaverses, there is no owner of the metaverse. The participants own the metaverse. Now, what kind of metaverse will develop in the future between those two kinds of metaverse? I think both will be developed, and there is compared with the real thing, the real life. Metaverse basically is infinite. So the company that construct the metaverse can add more to this metaverse. We saw in a few months ago that some people was buying assets and land, virtual land in metaverse. Here, I'll show a risk. Basically, as in the real thing, the land is limited. In the metaverse, the land is unlimited. So the supply is unlimited especially in a centralized metaverse. So if the metaverse has economic success, the owner will add more and more land. So basically, a metaverse can be expanded at infinity by adding new land items and so on. And this will have an impact on the economics inside that metaverse. And for an investor in this kind of things, he should know that. So once in a metaverse, it's unlimited and might be unlimited. Second, the number of metaverses is unlimited. Any metaverse can be created by some other company or community. This will have an impact on the assets in that metaverse. Now, economically, how can we take exposure on metaverse? I think for sure, this kind of worlds are the next evolution from the social networks, and for sure there will be developing in the future. But how can we take exposure on this? First, we can go to the roots, to the infrastructure of the metaverse, basically the technology, and we can take exposure on the technology. What kind of technology do we need to construct a metaverse? First, supercomputers, if it's a centralized one. And there are news that, for example, Meta, the company behind Facebook, is building for this purpose, for their own metaverse, the most advanced, so most powerful supercomputer in the world in order to run this. So because there is a lot of need of computer power to run this. So, for example, the suppliers of such materials like chips, graphical cards will be the suppliers for the technology. So the companies like, I don't know, Intel, NVIDIA will benefit from this. For example, Intel, it's developing a chip especially for the blockchain. NVIDIA the same. So there are companies that are behind the technology, behind the metaverse. So right now, this is one. The second, the companies that are developing the metaverse will benefit from this. So this is the real, take exposure in the real world. Then we can go to the virtual world. For the metaverse, we need a currency there. There are cryptocurrencies that are used in the metaverse. So the most successful metaverse will be the currency that is running its economy will be more successful. So the cryptocurrency used in the metaverse will benefit. And then the third kind of assets that will benefit are the NFTs. So basically, especially in the decentralized metaverses, NFTs are used. Land, it's an NFTs. Things that are used there are NFTs. So also exposure can be taken on the NFTs, but basically, if the real thing is the technology behind it's physical, it exists, then the second thing is the currency, then NFT will be like the second degree of the asset. They will be very volatile and will depend in change of tastes in the metaverse and the development of the metaverse. For example, if it is extended and new NFT are created, so in an increased supply, this will have an impact on the prices. So basically, these are the three components that are running a metaverse. And in order to benefit from the development of this sector, that I think for sure it will be developing at a rapid pace, exposure can be taken on all these three parts that are running the metaverse. So this was my short speech about the economics on the metaverse and how can we take exposure on the metaverses.
So the new virtual business is very much anchored in the real world and especially dependent on technology and can be very volatile. Those are the two main ideas.
Yes. For example, if we want less volatility, we will go for the real thing, for the technology behind. That will be needed for sure, and to run the metaverse. Then we can go a step higher to have the currency of the metaverse, and after that, the third kind of asset, the NFT.
Thank you very much. Before giving the floor to Alex, just please everybody stay with us. After Alex, we'll have a very interesting discussion with two guests not yet presented. Very, very interesting surprise. Alex, now we are keen to look for the answers for all the legal challenges.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Adrian. Well, you know, in general, we tend to look for answers for the future to the themes, you know, of the scholars or thought leaders. Generally, we, the lawyers, we come afterwards, you know, when decisions are made, the regulations are already crafted. But in this session, I will be explaining, you know, from a broad perspective, what would be the risks involved and, you know, the legal conundrums that might pop up in this metaverse world. We are discussing, and the theme is about metaverse, but I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years, we will be discussing about the multiverse. If you want, we can do the comparison between internet and the websites. Basically, as you know, as your previous speakers discussed, we are now at the moment when we are building the infrastructure, and based on the infrastructure, which in the decentralized world is the blockchain or the DLT, distributed ledger technology, then we will be building all sorts of metaverses, which are ecosystems. So that's why we are already considering that multiverse might be even more adequate as a term. An important aspect in this multiverse will be interoperability. Basically, you are building your identity, you are buying your digital assets in a world, and you would want, you know, to move this in another world in the ecosystem, because that would be part of, and it will be a game changer. While in, you know, in normal life, once you know, buy a plot of land and you build a house on land, you cannot move it to another place, you know, unless, you know, you have it on wheels or something. While in the multiverse, you know, you would be able to go with most of your digital assets and, you know, to transport yourself in another ecosystem. As a general approach, again, from legal and political science theory, We will be also spectators to what it's called layering. Even in a multiverse, in a metaverse, you might have, sorts of segregations. And I'll give you a concrete example. There is this famous game, Fortnite, which is, like Roblox. They are the new generation of games, where they already started to, create virtual concerts with real artists like, Travis Scott. So this artist gathered more than 12 million people at the concert in the virtual world. However, you cannot put together 12 million avatars on the same screen. So basically, they created virtual copies of the same concert with 50 participants in every batch. So it's another aspect where layering will provide a sort of a multiple within the metaverse type of dimensions. And this might create hierarchies. Basically, a DAO or a centralized controller of the metaverse can say whoever owns this amount of NFTs or it's in this type of league, they can participate in this layer of the metaverse. So on one side, you can create some rules which are now on the blockchain or using smart contracts, and you can emphasize or you can incentivize meritocracy. While on the other side, you can also create a new form of plutocracy and the inequality and discrimination. So this is a sort of legal political sense of what's coming. Going back now to the main topic, the legal aspects. I will be providing you some insights from scholars and from other lawyers who are facing these new dilemmas in the legal world. I will be splitting the very short presentation between the use of the metaverse as a service. And here we will be discussing a bit about data privacy, data security, and interoperability. And then we will discuss also about the second part about doing business within the metaverse, us as business owners or owners of assets and wanting to exchange them. And here, some general aspects about IP, intellectual property, which includes trademark, patents, copyright, and also how to deal with contracts in this new virtual world. Finishing, of course, with what's very important for contracts, the possibility of enforcing them or putting them, into application through the use of justice. But I'll be, in all these topics, I will try to be as brief as possible. So coming to the use of metaverse as a service, we do see a lot of new risks involving data, personal data, GDPR related. As a previous speaker was mentioning, Kalina, I believe she was discussing about augmented reality and virtual reality. In the augmented reality, imagine that you put your glasses, but all aspects of your house or some other personal details might be, recorded, processed. So from this perspective, it's very important to ensure that we will have the right regulation in place for protection of personal data, even a sort of privacy protected virtual identity of each one of us. Then going on to the interoperability, that would be very important. Why? Because standards needs to be created from a legal perspective. Basically, the law and policy should push on the interoperability standards, because you imagine that you invest in Decentraland an amount of ETH or mana, the currency of Decentraland, and then you have the ability to go to another metaverse and interact with another ecosystem. Through this gateway, unless the protection is at the same level at the infrastructure and cybersecurity level, you might lose digital assets. You might, there might be risks related to ownership of your assets and losing of these assets. So it's important to create a standard. So the safety of the digital assets and who's going to ensure about the safety of these digital assets is very important. In a centralized world, it will be, the main, the coordinator of the metaverse. But in the decentralized world, the DAOs will need to, need to answer these questions about safety and cybersecurity for the sake of consumer protection. Also, we need to consider antitrust or competition law. And here, I'm giving you very, brief examples like what the European Union has done in terms of antitrust for players who were already in a dominant position. Imagine we will have a metaverse which becomes the dominant one, like Facebook, or maybe hopefully some decentralized as well. It's like the bundling, when you're buying Microsoft, and together with Microsoft operating system, you're buying also, they were installing it with Internet Explorer. So the bundling was an issue in the past. In the metaverse, again, there might be some bundling issues, or similar mechanism in the open banking world. So competition always pushed for openness. And if we will be discussing about a dominant metaverse, probably it will need to ensure an open gateway to other metaverses, which are building a new type of global economy, if you want, in the virtual world. Then again, on the use of the service, we will see also, I'm pretty sure they're already popping up, delictual activities. And here I'm thinking especially on two types: harassment, which is already common in the virtual world, in the digital world, and deep fakes, basically appropriating the face of another person in order to manipulate on the identity. Face swapping, face generation, saying that you have an identity which is not really yours, and asking people to trust that this is your identity. As a short example, for a New Jersey law firm already opened an office in decentralized, and they are specialized in personal injury cases. So people are starting to move their thoughts towards this. Now moving to the second part of the presentation, where we will be consumers, but also buyers and sellers of digital assets. IP is very important. We've already seen in the NFT world trademark infringements, and we have a case now in relation to the Hermes bag, Hermes, the luxury fashion house. There was a creator of a series of NFTs of a special bag called the Birkin for Hermes, and the guy created the Meta Birkins. So a sort of a digital appropriation of the bag, and he managed to sell all those NFTs at a very good price. So the Hermes company is going now after the NFT creator for trademark infringement in the US. I don't think the case is resolved yet, but we will see more and more of bigger brands trying to follow the NFT infringements. At the European level, we've seen also an increase in what it's called the registration of virtual items. So basically, prior to the digital world, we were registering trademarks, to put them on our Coca-Cola bottle and stuff like that. Now we are seeing goods for example, Gucci shoes or Gucci bags, you can use them in reality, but you can also use, you know, the value added of the brand also in the virtual world. So here the brands are trying to register and protect a sort of W's in the real world and in the virtual world. Last but not least, on copyright, it will be very difficult to enforce what is called, you know, the non-exclusive and exclusive licenses. On one side, the owner of the copyright would want to provide the non-exclusive right to more people or to more buyers. On the other hand, the ones who have the copyright license will want as much as possible from that license. And this is very difficult to enforce in a virtual world, in a blockchain world, NFT world, because at the end of the day, the underlying assets, the picture or the form of art, you don't know when you buy the NFT, you don't know what sort of license has embedded in it. Last part, contracting via avatars. Basically, a contract in general, it's valid even if the identity of the parties is, you know, not necessarily known, but it could be identifiable. So if I contract with another avatar in the metaverse, it will be a matter of what law is applicable. So we have territoriality issues under which applicable law we are signing or agreeing on a contract. And we will see a lot of conflict of laws. This is a matter of private international law. It's getting solved jurisdiction by jurisdiction. There's no clear answer yet. And, you know, in the last, let's say, 30 years, we haven't done at territorial, at jurisdiction level, a very good job in, you know, creating very clear frameworks. Probably it will be a sort of an international law applying to contracts, depending on the applicable law in that specific metaverse. So if I'm a metaverse and I say in my metaverse, in my ecosystem, the Romanian law applies, if you consent, probably the contractual law will be under Romanian law. This is important for of course, for where to enforce the contract and you know, how to apply to the substance of the law. Part of your speakers discussed about mentioned DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. They are going to have a more increased role in the metaverse. However, jurisdictions are paying particular attention to the liability of DAOs. In Romania, there will be like societăți, but they are not organizations based on the commercial companies, because there you have limited liability companies. People started to create companies in order to limit their liability. In a DAO, we don't have yet, you know, a solution, at least in Europe. US is starting to open up in states like Vermont, Wyoming, where, you know, they create the legal cloth for this type of DAOs to operate with a limited liability. Dispute resolution, and this is my my last point. I don't know if I'm taking too much of your time, but dispute resolution, it's another very important area, because if you have a contract and you cannot enforce it, what's the point? Some of your attendees will say, yes, but we have the smart contracts. Smart contracts are only a part of the solution. And they are not solving the whole universe, especially in hybrid worlds, when you have part of the deal in the metaverse, part of the deal in the real world. And here, very short, 3 examples. In 2021, we had I'm going gradually from the real world and how it uses metaverse to a hybrid and fully decentralized justice. The first VR arbitration as a test was conducted in last year through a group of special professionals which are good with arbitration. which are specialized in arbitration. Arbitration might become the most used form of dispute resolution. Why? Because as long as you have an international / virtual space elements of a contract, plus the commercial nature of the contract, even if you are a non-territorial universe, you can use the arbitration. And arbitration, it's mainly recognized by more than 169 countries through the New York Convention, the so-called New York Convention on Recognition of and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. So basically, you can go with an award to your judge in a country and say, please enforce this. It's gone through arbitration. I have my arbitration award. So from these aspects on, you have new solutions like, and I'm giving you an example, Kleros. Kleros is a sort of a decentralized court. And they used in 2020 their technology where they had an arbitrator deciding on the procedure, but on the substance of the dispute, they asked a jury, which was a part of the Kleros court, which is a sort of a DAO, sort of a, they can be considered jurors. And it was a leasing contract under Mexican law between the landlord and the tenant. They went to arbitration. The arbitrator took the procedure, mainly saying that, you know, trying to ensure the equality of arms and the normal procedure of the case. And then they submitted the dispute to the Kleros court, which was, you know, it has a very interesting monetization mechanism. If you are right with the others, you know, it's a game theory of economic theory. If you are right with the others, you are gaining coins. If you are on the bad side of the decision, as a juror, you are losing coins. And the landlord won the case, and it managed to enforce the arbitral award via Kleros in a Mexican court. So that was a novelty at the global level. And the rest, you know, the rest is the future. Basically, Kleros and Jur, another solution will be, there are the beginnings, the peaks of the icebergs of what's going to be the justice system in a multiverse world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to make a comparison, short question here about the legislation in metaverse. What will prevail? The rules of the company who owns the platform, or eventually the national laws?
I think that in our world, the prevalence of the territorial jurisdiction will prevail. But in the metaverse, what's being built there, it's a matter of contractual law. And in general, jurisdictions in the democracies recognize that the contract is the law of the parties. So under this interpretation, we would be considering that whatever is being negotiated in the metaverse and the rules of the metaverse will also be consented by the participants in the metaverse. So there's not necessarily a conflict between them.
Yeah. Not necessarily, but it might be.
It might be, yeah.
It sounds like what happens in metaverse will stay in metaverse.
We were at one moment quite behind the schedule. We are still behind the schedule, but hope to catch up. Probably we'll have a shorter roundtable. Now, for the next 15 minutes, let me introduce Mihai and Alex. So you are with us? Mihai?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Thank you for the invitation.
And Alex.
Yeah.
It's maybe even a different perspective. So Alex is studying business in Hague University. He learned at school about digital assets and a little bit about blockchain, practically exposed to the platforms. And Mihai, I envy him. He's somewhere where the weather is much warmer. And he's very, very hands-on in doing cryptos and NFTs for others, but also for him. He has a very interesting initiative here. So welcome, Alex. Welcome, Mihai. I will start with Alex here, and then I'll leave you both to continue because we were together yesterday evening, and I saw that you have a very good chemistry together. Alex, you learned at school on one hand, and on the other hand, you have at least the user perspective. How would you compare them?
Well, first of all, in school we didn't learn about all the technical stuff. Everything was more related to business and how can we integrate the business into the metaverse, and also how can we integrate digital assets in any business. And I thought I would keep it short and come up with some advantages and disadvantages for this integration. First of all, I'll start with the disadvantages because I think they're worth mentioning. The first problem that would appear would be impersonation. So let's say our business or any business has a meeting room in the metaverse. If someone copies my avatar and my username, they can go there and pretend they're me. So I think that's a problem, but this could be easily solved by, let's say, implying some rules in there. And the other problem is that we've seen so far with games like mentioned before, like World of Warcraft, also Second Life, people really tend to get addicted to these things, and they also tend to ignore their real life instead of the virtual life. There are cases in which parents forgot about their kids because they were playing, and I think that's a real problem and this should be addressed. But there are also advantages. Firstly, there's the possibility of networking. It's at a new level now. You don't have to go somewhere. You don't have to travel to meet with your client. All you can do is meet in the metaverse or in a virtual cafe, let's say. And you could conduct business there. You can have conversations. You can also make new friends, meet new people. So I think that's a really good advantage. Second of all, there's a new level of commodities. So everybody now with COVID, everybody's working from home or was working from home. Now you don't even have to go to your job or headquarters. You can have the headquarters in a virtual world and meet up there. But as I said before, the problem with the impersonation can cause like issues. And the last advantage I came up with is that people can have new experiences. So let's say you own a pair of AR goggles or VR goggles. You can visit like alien worlds and see stuff that you will never see in your day-to-day life. And I think these are like some things that we can play with, we can explore, and we can develop. So we have much more interesting things to see and do in our free time. Also, I'd like to give the mic to Mihai and tell us about how we can integrate DAO in our business. And I think that's like a bigger advantage than any of those I mentioned before.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Now, for a very short presentation of myself, I graduated Hyperion University in Bucharest under the direct supervision of Professor Sever Stănulescu. And right after that, I went actually in business, in the old classic type of business. I moved to Latin America, where I basically started exporting products from Latin America to Europe, products that here are easily to get and have a higher price in Europe. Now, due to the last period that was pretty harsh on physical business, on the actual stores, we came up with the idea of promoting our products through e-commerce platforms, especially designed for each and every customer of ours. It was a snowball effect. One thing led to another. And right now we are in the business of creating and implementing blockchain projects that are specifically tailored to business, to the actual business itself, to an actual product, to an actual to an actual tangible existing product. A lot of projects on the blockchain are dependent on selling the NFTs just as they have been presented today here. Pictures of cats, whatever. NFTs that are very hard to hold value, and basically the value of these NFTs is set only by speculation, mostly. Because if I bought a picture of a cat for $100 and I say it's worth $150 now, it's pure speculation. It's my opinion. My projects that I'm working right now are DAOs set on the blockchain. And here I actually would like to point out a problem that Alex just told us about, the liability of a DAO. And yes, it is a problem. The liability of a DAO is virtually non-existent. But that is a problem that we actually solved. Today it's called LAO. And the L is standing from, comes from limited liability. The LAO is just like a DAO. It's virtual, is on the blockchain, but it's actually linked and connected to a company, an existing company, identifiable, that operates under the legislation of the country in which it is set. Now, for instance, here in Panama, we do have such projects with limited liability companies that operate just like a DAO, but are liable within the laws of the country. Now, the NFTs, where do NFTs come in? NFTs are a wonderful piece of technology, the non-fungible token. Now, the non-fungible token can take, as I've seen, any type of form. It can be a JPEG, a PNG, it can be a GIF, or it can actually be a PDF. Now, that PDF can mean virtually anything. That PDF can be a share in a company. It can be proof of ownership. It can be proof of acquisition. My project right now that I'm working on is a decentralized supply chain for coffee, which will be a DAO, where participants like coffee farms, traders, distributors, and merchants will be parts of the DAO like shareholders by purchasing an NFT that will be their actual share and that will give them the voting right within the DAO. And this DAO, like any DAO that is linked to a product, a physical product, and a business, will generate a revenue and a profit. Now, through smart contracts and through the blockchain, actually, the participants that are, let's call them shareholders, will actually get that particular profit. They will get their part of profit. That's how we monetize the whole technology. It's basically a shareholder company, just we don't have the big buildings, the large tables, and the endless meetings. with CEOs and other employees, basically. Monetization of the NFTs can be very safe and can have great functionality. For instance, my tokens and my NFTs being linked to a product like coffee, which is the second largest traded commodity on the stock market after oil, will not be susceptible to speculation, being based on supply and demand of the particular product with a price pretty much regulated by the stock market. It's very true that my NFTs can go up and down. My tokens can rise in price, but that doesn't mean that the actual product, the kilo of coffee, is rising. Basically, it's like creating a stable token, but besides the USDT, which has backing of $100 billion somewhere in a bank, we are actually basing our tokens and our NFTs on a product that is listed on the stock market, that is consumed worldwide, and that has a stability in its price. Now, where does the metaverse come in this whole DAO and NFT venture? Now, by my opinion, the metaverse in my project would only be helpful as, let's say, a user-friendly interface for the participants to have meetings, to know each other, to meet each other, and to talk about the business, to vote in a more friendly environment than just a click on a screen. But the second project that I'm working on, and this is going to be very interesting on Metaverse, it is a real estate project. Here in Panama, a developer wants to create such a project based on crypto, based on a DAO, actually based on an LAO, where the buildings that he is building, the actual structures like shopping malls, will be listed, and anybody can buy shares in this company through NFTs, through the blockchain. Now, the metaverse, actually, he wants to implement the idea of the customer putting on the VR glasses and walking around walking around the building, walking around the construction site as it's being built, for him to better see the progress of the build, and eventually to be able for the particular shareholder to just walk around the mall in Panama, even if he is in Bucharest. This would be a good metaverse NFT link, viable as business, and safer. Being, again, an LAO, a limited company, working with the smart contracts, selling the NFTs, where the shareholder has a proof of ownership, and getting his profits directly, because through these smart contracts, any DAO and any LAO can just pay out the profits and revenues to each and every participant without any type of problems, of banking issues, of banking applications. And right now, fortunately, at least, it is still pretty much tax-free until the American SEC gets hold of it. And as I understand, the SEC is working tirelessly to regulate this industry. But I believe, I do believe that if we combine the technology with actual business, with a dynamic ecosystem that can grow and create actual business, factual business on real products, on consumer-wide products, we can create a more stable coin, we can create a more stable NFT, and we can give a true case of use and utility to the particular NFT or token. Because right now we have thousands and thousands of tokens that do not have utility. They have a purpose, but not a utility. Purpose means that you can use them to buy, again, JPEGs of cats. That's not a utility, that's a purpose. Of course, you can collect them. You're very proud of them, having them in your wallet. But it's not really a utility. My approach is more to use this technology within real business, because no matter how metaverse will evolve, you will never be able to actually, let's say, drink a cup of coffee in the metaverse without the actual coffee. You can pretend to have a cup in your hand, sure, but it's not going to help. So my opinion is that metaverse and NFT can be well linked together. But I strongly believe that still, in order to give it a utility and to be able to monetize on it, to do business out of it, is to link the particular technology to factual businesses. And right now, it's not that hard to do. As I said, legal issues, a part of them, yes, not all, but a part of the legal issues have been solved. And as it comes to stability and fluctuations, they actually have been resolved, yes. Yes, and as long as we are careful and as long as we keep an open eye on the markets, we can keep a token at bay, not to be influenced by inflation, over minting, or speculation. Now that's my point on the view. If Alex, if you have any questions, feel free.
Yeah, well, I was curious about how can we integrate this use of NFTs and smart contracts in other businesses, or let's say other products or services?
It's very easy. We can see the NFTs as the gift cards that you can get in a store. We can see the NFTs as those cards. I don't think they do it anymore. But when I was young, at petrol stations, at gas stations, you would get a card, and after an amount of fuel, you could get, I don't know, an umbrella or a keychain or something like that. Now, all of these can be shifted to NFTs. Now, the basis of working with another product or with another service is to combine multiple services and multiple products in order to be successful and to create desirability for that particular token. Now, an example that might come into my head right now is gas stations. Now, a gas station can have its own token. You can pay for gas using that token. Again, that would be a stable coin, being that is linked to the price of oil and gas. Not today, because I understand the gas really went up in Romania in the past 24 hours. But usually here in Panama, we are still under the 80 cent per liter price. But these tokens, you pay with the tokens gas, for instance. After an amount of fuel, you get an NFT or 2 or 3. Now, these NFTs can be set to give you a discount at a partner of the gas station that can, so you can get a discount for car insurance or car tires or whatever other service you might need for your car. So you can connect basically any type of product and service within such a structure and use the NFTs as rewards. Basically, you have your token, they buy the token, they use the token to pay for your particular project, and the NFTs you hand out can be basically the rewards. Like a game that is play to gain. Now in the petrol station, you have fill to gain, for instance.
Okay, but what would attract businesses in integrating this like NFT, let's say, strategy? Like what would we have to tell the partners in order for them to join this idea?
This is a thing that was a bit tricky at the start for me, but I kind of managed. So in my project for my coffee trading app, I also have the coffee shops. Now, the coffee shops should accept my token as payment for coffee and hand out a discount for people that use it. Of course, came the question, why should I do that? Why does it help? Now, in order to get new business into your structure and to grow, to create a dynamic ecosystem, because the most important for a token is to have an ecosystem. Yeah, to have utility within. I used this method. Some said it was bribing, but honestly, I don't think so. I actually gave the particular coffee shop that will work with my token a number of tokens for free, like an airdrop, making him a participant in the organization, in the autonomous organization. And also, he understood that a token grows in value with every transaction. The more is transaction, the more value it gains. Now, it's true, he's giving a 15% discount on a cup of coffee, but he's getting that crypto coin in his wallet. He also has the coins that I gave him, which are gaining value. So it's true, he is giving out a 15%. Some said it was bribing, yes, but commercial incentives. I would go with commercial incentive, yeah. Now, the fact of the matter is, he's actually making money out of this. He's giving the 15% discount, but he's actually gaining money from each transaction that grows the particular token in value.
Okay, that's very good. But I would ask, like, also, why would the businesses, let's say, spend money or spend resources to create these NFTs? Because they have to look like something. They have to be designed. Somebody has to like write the code for it. What's like the incentive for the company to do that, and what's like the disadvantages and advantages of doing it?
Okay. Well, the answer is as simple as it is annoying. The fact of the matter is, creating NFTs is really not rocket science. It's easier than you might think. 90% of the NFTs that we see on the internet that are sold as, again, pictures of cats are actually layer-based drawings. So basically, all you have to do is create about 80 PNGs times, let's say 5, which, yes, will take some time. But once you upload it in something that we call a candy machine, the candy machine actually mixes them up and creates these NFTs. Basically, what happens is that you have, let's say, 2-3 days work in drawing something, and we're talking about very simple drawings. It all depends on how intricate you want your design to be, because an NFT can be basically even a text as PNG form or whatever. But the actual business is to do the math. You're working 3 days, you're using a candy machine, you're minting the NFTs that on some blockchains now, there was a discussion earlier on about the Ethereum blockchain that is very expensive. And yes, Ethereum has been very expensive in the last couple of years, but we still have blockchains like Solana, and minting NFTs on Solana is a couple of cents for 5,000 NFTs. So it's particularly a business. That would be the incentive.
I will allow myself to jump in. And it was an interesting discussion. I would like to give time for at least two rounds of questions in the round table, since probably have 15-20 more minutes. So Alex, Mihai, thank you for this. I hope it was a very interesting discussion and a very interesting use case. And I will start the round table with a topic that came in several presentations today. It's about consolidation, standardization, interoperability. And okay, the internet and mobile internet benefited from both standardized technology, but also from affordable devices and quite standardized devices. And the question is, for a larger adoption of metaverse and for the attraction equivalent or what Facebook has and so on, do you think that the standardized devices would be critical? How do you see this element? And I will start with Konstantin.
Thank you. Yes, that's probably the key point is to have hardware to use the metaverse. And this hardware have to be, let's say, user-friendly. For example, if you take a VR headset nowadays, it's quite big and quite difficult to use. There are a huge progress in last year by developing wireless headset. Wireless headset is very fine because you don't need cable to be connected to the computer, but still have a problem. The quality is very low. And if you see the current state of the metaverse, which use headset, for example, the Meta of Facebook, you see that avatars are quite simple, half avatars or something like that. So we really need a much better technology, much user-friendly, much powerful to explore the quality of the metaverse. So yes, this is a question of development. I strongly believe that in the few next years, probably 5-10 years, we will really have this kind of device.
Thank you. Andrei, you predicted quite impressive growth in that area. How dependent are those growths by devices?
That's interesting because devices aren't a limitation here, right? So I don't think the device is the limitation. The limitation is about mass adoption right now, and how willing people are to interact with this. 10 years ago, if you asked anybody about Bitcoin, nobody would have told you what that is. It would be like a very, very small niche of very geeky people. In the last year alone, you see major funds pouring billions in it. You see ETFs launched, regulated ETFs launched on the New York Stock Exchange. You see regulated ETFs launched on the London Stock Exchange, and you see VCs pouring hundreds of millions into it. What lags behind a little bit, and I think that's a temporary issue, is about the number of users. So for example, I talked about gaming. What's the number one way to see how good a game is how many people are playing it, in a way. So yeah, devices are not a limitation per se. It's just about how many people are using it and how good are the creators at attracting people. There's still a perception there that this is a little bit dodgy and a little bit illegal, and the legal framework is not up to scratch yet. But I don't think devices are per se the limitation, if that makes sense.
Devices are not a limit.
Sorry, yes, that's absolutely right. But my point is that people use devices if those devices are first cheap, and second, user-friendly. And they will be adopted if they are really good. If they are not good, nobody will adopt them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, if you actually look under the hood to some of the major blockchain projects, they're not really decentralized, right?
Absolutely, I agree.
and they're held together by a piece of string, and they just look novelty. But if you go one layer deep, you're seeing, oh my God, what is this? You could have done this so much better using technology from 20 years ago.
Thank you, Constantin. Andrei, Călin?
The question about technology and the devices, or
The question about how important will be affordable devices, like mobile phones are today, and good quality devices for traction of future metaverse platforms.
Yeah, of course, if you are going in a shop on Romania and you are looking to the gaming chairs and see that they are costing 300-400 euro one chair for gaming, or if you are going to shop Oculus devices and are around 400 euro one Oculus devices for this virtual reality, is quite expensive, in fact. So probably people who are addicted or will be addicted on these gamers and so on, and will invest. Others will be followers and will need to have light solution. To look only on a mobile phone and to play like a game is one thing. To be immersive in this technology and to be part and to be integrated in the metaverse probably will be quite expensive, depending on the size. In fact, when will be a lot, millions of clients, the price will be quite low. And depending on the services that we'll find there and what we are thinking. Like example, I'm at an university. We are thinking in one moment maybe we'll have a class in metaverse. Why the students who are working anyway a lot online will not have their avatar there where you can split educational resources and to do a nice type of training in place of a classical one. It can be probably in future will happen also this.
Actually, this question started from one idea that we had to have this conference in metaverse with devices and so on, and then we realized that it's too short term and a little bit expensive, and dropped the idea. If someone else wants to answer this, Mihai?
I'm very sure that in the very near future, big tech companies like Samsung, Logitech, Asus will try to come up with various items, with various products that will be probably very expensive at the beginning to use in the metaverse. But I'm also pretty sure that seeing how the blockchain has evolved in the last couple of years, blockchain technology actually has become better, but it has become lighter, more simple. We might have the luck for someone to be able to create a metaverse that would use a very limited computing power. But I think that's basically on who owns the monopoly on the technology that is used. Basically, money talks. So I think that Apple and Samsung and Asus are going to have a word to say in this, and probably will oppose any type of simplifying the metaverse code and computing necessities in order for them to sell the technology, the particular hardware that we're talking about, for a much larger price. I think it all depends on how metaverse is going to be structured and how open source metaverse actually will be.
Depends also on what the Facebooks and Microsofts of this world will promote and the commercial alliances, I think.
Can I add another layer into this topic? Fundamentally, it's all about identity, right? If you can prove you are who you are, then you can interact with your digital assets. So for example, if you are in the Luna blockchain, Luna has over 200 plus protocols. Think about protocols as in applications, and Luna being like an operating system. So if you connect with your Luna wallet to any one of those applications, they already know who you are, what's your position with them, and you can trade and use that those things to create a collateral, write an insurance contract, borrow money, send money, or do other things. So for some blockchains, usually the newer blockchains, this is actually quite easy. I think the older ones, like Ethereum, which has very, very high gas fees, it's a little bit more clunky, and that's why you have layer 2s that are helping them scale, like Matic, for example, which recently just invested 500+ million into a scaling up solution with zero knowledge proof. So if you can solve the identity problem, it doesn't really matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're in, let's say, the Facebook metaverse or the Apple metaverse or whatever, you can prove you are who you are. And that's quintessential. Yes, you may be anonymous, you may have a synthetic identity, but still that links to a wallet, which proves you are who you are. So it's actually an identity problem.
Thank you, Andrei. From a technological question, I would like to go to a pure economics question. I also searched for some figures like Andrei did, and I saw that in 2021, the value of NFTs exchanged was $25 billion, according to that radar, which tracks over 30 blockchains. And the question which I would kindly ask you to provide a short answer for all the participants. Do you think there is a bubble there? Feel free to intervene.
I think yes, there might be a bubble there because it's a new kind of asset, and there is a lot of interest about this asset. And as I was saying, the supply of this kind of assets is unlimited, and will continue to supply more and more NFTs. So this will affect the price, and yes, there might be a bubble.
Can I intervene a little bit there? Absolutely, yeah. It could be overinflated. It could be out of hype, but that doesn't really matter in the real world. I think housing, it's a bubble, right? But it's a bubble made of steel. It just goes up and up. Temporarily goes down, but in the long term, i.e. plus 10 years, it goes up. I think what really happens at the global level is what people call a game theory. So if you look at governments, nations, or large high net worth individuals which are investing in metaverse, NFT, crypto, etc., 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 most of them, I would argue, they're not investing because they believe in it. They're not investing because they believe in the fundamental description of the blockchain or what it might promise, but they just think this will grow. So it's a lower cost of entry now than in 3, 4, 5, 10 years. So in a way, they're hedging their bets, which kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it may be a bubble may burst, or it can continue to inflate. You never know. That's why people invest now. And that's why people say buy the dip.
Mihai, you wanted to say something?
Yes, actually, I'm very connected. I'm always on project websites, and I post my projects on various websites, mine and my clients. And yes, there will be a bubble, and actually, I see it bursting every day. The problem with these $25 billion in NFTs is that a very large amount of these billions of dollars went on NFT projects that were born in a living room one night. Someone designed something, went public, paid $100, $200 to run an ad on Facebook, sold the NFTs, promised something within a project, telling them that the project is going to grow, the project is going to have that and whatever. And then they stopped. They made $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a night. So they sold 500 NFTs, 1,000 NFTs in an hour and a half, 2 hours, made $30,000, $40,000, and just vanished, just disappeared. Just in Romania, a month ago, a kid made $1 million out of such a project that he just stopped it. He just created something, people bought into it, not actually thinking of the project is viable, of it can be done. They just went on impulse. NFTs have been sold for the past year on impulse. And a lot of them are today worthless. Many of them are actually worthless. So the bubble has starting to blow already. That's my opinion.
Adrian, if I may, just one point here, not necessarily from the legal point of view, but So indeed, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this NFT world, and it's very much linked to the multiverse and the metaverse. However, there are also, use cases of NFTs, and I'll give the example of Subcarpați, the famous Romanian band. I think that 3 weeks ago or so, they launched their NFTs on Elrond blockchain, and they managed to gather 2.8 or 2.9 million euros in around 45 minutes. Why do I say this is a happy scenario? Because the good thing about Subcarpați is that for the last 10 years of their activity, all their albums were public. They never asked for money for their music. So in a way, it was a sort of a community paying back to the music that they produced. So we'll see more of this coming, and I think that community engagement will be key in order, for the value of NFTs. We've seen this with football teams, we've seen that with NBA, but indeed it's still a wild west out there.
It might not be a bubble when it's clearly anchored in something from reality, like with Subcarpați and with football teams. Constantin.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. It's, I will say, 1 million question. If we are in the bubble, well, I have different opinion here. I mean, the fact that several experts here on the NFT say that we are in the bubble means that we are not in the bubble, because when we are in the bubble, by definition, everybody is so positive on the stuff that everybody, I mean, not only expert but normal people, you take anybody on the street, everybody will say this is genius, this is the future, this really is something which worth millions. And if you see this situation, that means we are in the bubble. So in my opinion, probably will be a bubble in the future, probably in the near future, but we are still not arrived in this situation.
Other opinions, Călin? You are on mute.
It's quite early to speak about a bubble because we are at the start of the process. Of course, there are some eccentricities, probably, and there are a lot of eccentric people in the world. But if we are looking to garner hyper cycle, we are yet on high expectation slope. After that, we'll be on disillusion, and probably in 2-3 years we'll be on a plateau of productivity with this technology. But probably this high expectation, it's looking like a bubble, but the real bubble will come later, probably.
Thank you.
Maybe a final observation, before, very short one. If you remember the dot-com bubble, like the original tech bubble, yes, it was a bubble. Yes, a lot of companies failed. And I really believe that 99% of NFTs/crypto stuff will fail. But there were a few which haven't failed. And they made it extremely big. So think Amazon, eBay, Booking.com, etc. So we may be, we may not be, I don't know. But it doesn't really matter. If you go for fundamentals and you buy good technology that has scalability and user interaction and so on and so forth, you'll be in a good place.
So bubble and possibly consolidation.
Potentially. I still think we're talking to a small group of people. We're not addressing the mainstream yet. So I don't think we've seen the top of the bubble yet. If a bubble exists, I think there's still room to grow.
Going a little bit more to the economics, and here is food for thinking. Maybe the huge amount of NFT traded are related to what you were mentioning, Andrei, 2 years ago about monetary expansion in March 2020. So I think that are very much related.
A lot of money floating around that has to be invested somewhere.
It was a pleasure having all of you today. I was impressed by the amount of information exchanged, by the quality of information exchanged, and I hope to see you soon, because there are a lot, much more to talk about. Your host, Adrian Locusteanu. Until now, Ileana, you have the microphone.
Mulțumesc, a fost o zi extraordinară. Vă mulțumesc tuturor pentru participare. Mulțumesc invitațiilor noștri care au ales conferința în loc de somn sau alte activități. Mă refer la Panama, la San Francisco, Londra, Haga, Geneva și București. Acum avem câteva premii pentru tombola celor care au rămas la sfârșit. Alex, te rog. Vom avea la tombolă 3 cărți de la editura Integral, 3 cutii cu plante pentru farfuria noastră sănătoasă și un voucher oferit de clinica Soft Skill de o oră de educație, dezvoltare vocațională. Să începem. Alexandru, te rog, primii 7. Vă rog, cum vă citesc acum, să-mi trimiteți imediat adresele de mail. Luminița Maria Crăciun, Carmen Teodorașcu, Boza Tanța, Emil Stoica, Cristian Danculea, Andreea Georgiana Chirilă și Andrei Isac. Felicitări și aștept cât de repede să-mi dați adresele de mail, pentru că se închide repede Zoom-ul după ce terminăm conferința. Da? Uite, am primit.